Hello everybody, I am Fuzzyface. Welcome back to another episode of this Motorsport Manager career. We're back today with round 2, the Doha Grand Prix. We're in the capital of Qatar, hoping that we're going to have a good race here. Acceleration, front wing are crucial here. It could be a good race. We've got a pretty decent front wing. Our car this season is pretty aero heavy. Obviously, we've moved over to the Honda engine, moving away from Mercedes. Storyline wise, we were getting a lot more out of the Mercedes engine than the actual works team. They were getting a little bit unhappy with us. We also saw the opportunity of working with Honda and maybe going one step beyond Mercedes and not sort of being held back sort of by the work team. In principle, in storyline, that is what we're going for here. So we've got this Honda engine in the car at the moment. As you know, if you watched the last episode, it is currently the 8th best overall. We're behind the Porsche engine, behind the Aston Martin engine that Red Bull use, behind the Mercedes engine that Mercedes, ART and McLaren are using, and the Ferrari engine, which is in the Ferrari, the Sauber, and yeah, I think it's just those two, isn't it, that are using the Ferrari engine. But this Honda engine that we've got is not actually that many points behind it. So once we get to the Canadian Grand Prix, where we can introduce engine upgrades, once we bring a new power package to that Grand Prix, hopefully our engines are going to start moving back up the order. Hopefully we can get above Porsche and maybe the teams running the Mercedes engine that are a little bit behind in the understanding of that power unit within their car. The teams such as ART and McLaren, hopefully we can get above them and start fighting and getting an engine built once again that is right up there at the top. As it is, as you can see, our Aero package is really good. We've got the best brakes in the game at the moment in the car. Also, the rear wing that we just built as well is going to be the best one. The one that we've got in the car is second best, because if you've watched this series before, you will know it's just certain parts of the year, certain rounds, round 4, round 6, round 10 and round 14, where I can introduce certain upgrades to the car. The first of those is going to be round 4, Tondela, the Portuguese Grand Prix, which is where I can introduce aero upgrades to the car. As it is, we've got a front wing built, we've got a rear wing built, which will be the best one in the game at the moment. This one, that's a 1136, and a new suspension built. We're currently working on another new rear wing. I'm hoping to get another new suspension built that will hopefully be ready in time to go into the car at the Portuguese Grand Prix as well. Because in this game, if I don't introduce it at that Grand Prix, I cannot then introduce another aero part until round 10. So there's like 5 races where you go without that part. So even if it's unreliable, I've only got up to 42% reliability. It's possibly going to go in the car and we're going to run an unreliable car. At least one of the cars is going to be unreliable at that point if I can't get up to the reliability. That is how we work this game, just to make things a little bit fairer, just to make our chasing of upgrades a little bit more interesting, so we get staggered upgrades from the other teams as well. So at some points of the season, cars will jump above us, we'll jump above them, and so on and so forth, just so we're not introducing upgrades race to race. We're sort of staggering it a little bit more like in real life, where we've got certain points of the season that we're working towards to bring new packages to the car. I just think it works pretty well like that. That's how we're going with things at the moment. But anyway, we're getting into Doha. We had a really good first race in Sydney. We ended up finishing 6th and 8th overall. It seemed like we were going to be in for a bad day after qualifying, because we got Ocon, who qualified 10th, and then for some reason Norris had a really terrible qualifying session, 19th for him. And then we set out our stall for a strategy that we were going to go early, try and get the undercut working. We got that undercut working, but then Daniel Ricciardo crashed, safety car came out, everyone managed to get into the pits, sort of messed up our strategy totally, but somehow we managed to recover to 6th and 8th place overall. Not a bad result considering what actually happened and went down during the race. Ferrari, meanwhile, the bookies' favourites, you would say, with their driver lineup of Danny Rick and Charles Leclerc. They've also got the car that is, it's not the strongest overall at the moment, but it's pretty much on a par with the Silver Arrows car of the Mercedes. Obviously Mercedes, their driver lineup isn't as good star rating wise, with Lewis Hamilton and Nico Hülkenberg in the car. But the favourites Ferrari, looking to win their first championship, the favourites to do so. Their first championship, hoping to win their first one since 2008. Looks like it might not happen. They got off to a really bad start. Charles Leclerc, I don't know what actually happened to him in the last race, but he ended up finishing outside the points. Danny Rick obviously binned it as well. He shunted into the barriers. And yeah, finished last. So Ferrari all the way down there in 8th place at the moment, and off to a bad start. But we're going to get into this Doha Grand Prix now. We've got Esteban Ocon, who is injured, which reminds me, we just need to look at the mail. If we come down here, we've got, if I can find the right ones, from Ted Kravitz. Ocon is doing some meditation at the moment, so he's got improved focus. And if I can find the one for Lando Norris from Mark Webber, Lando Norris has now become a stock car champion, so he's got +2 to his braking as well. So improvements to both drivers heading into this race, although -10 to the fitness of Ocon because he's got this dodgy net, but he's still going to be racing because our reserve driver Jake Hughes is nowhere near good enough to go into the car. We're going to go with Alliance as usual, losing £1 million per race. Both guys actually happy with their car. It's pretty much equal is the car, so I don't know why there's a difference there. All the parts are equal. If there is, there's only 1 or 2 points between the parts because of what we've been upgrading, the slight bit of performance increases that we could get out of the car in the interim before we can bring upgrades to the car. But Norris is a little bit happy with the setup as it is at the moment. But anyway, we're going to get in, skip over practice as usual, and we'll be back for qualifying in a second. And it's going to be clear here in Qatar, 28 laps. So yeah, it should be a good race, and we'll be back in a second to run through qualifying. Here we go with the first qualifying lap. Ocon is coming across the line. Norris is already on his first lap. Hopefully, we're going to see some improvement, and we see Ocon go above 10th that he got in the last Grand Prix, and we're going to see Norris obviously go above 19th. Hopefully, that is going to be something. Norris going quicker here during the first sector, which is quicker than a Mercedes at the moment. So Norris putting in an absolutely outstanding lap on his first lap here with this Honda-powered car. Hopefully he's going to be able to keep that going. It looks like Verstappen's quicker in the second sector in the Porsche, and it's Danny Rick in the Ferrari who's eventually gone quicker. So Norris not that far behind here at the moment. It seems like some sort of an anomaly in that first race where he finished 19th. Maybe he got his setup lap totally wrong. But we're quicker than both Mercedes here with Norris. Ocon is going to come across the line. He goes 7th, just a little bit slower than the 2 Mercedes. But we're really up there for this Grand Prix, this Doha Grand Prix. Usually a track we're pretty good at. Obviously, I'm sort of a little bit undecided on the strategy for this race, but we'll go over that a little bit more once we actually do get to the race. But for anywho, that is the first lap done in qualifying. We'll be back for the second one in just a second. Here we go with the second lap in qualifying now. Norris is currently 5th. Ocon, meanwhile, has been pushed down to 12th. He's done a little bit better job preparing his tyre temperatures this time, I think. I think he might have been overheated last time. I can't actually remember looking what he did with his temperatures last time. But hopefully we're going to see improvements from both drivers. It's a little bit of a gap between getting Norris up there with Van Dorn right up there in the ART. Somehow that ART of Van Dorn getting all the way up into 4th place. Obviously they do have the Mercedes engine, a little bit of a more powerful engine than some of the others, but obviously not as powerful as the Ferrari, and the Sauber Ferrari engine that they've got is actually more powerful than that one as well. Hamilton meanwhile is going quickest on his second lap. Norris is slower whilst Ocon is quicker this lap than on his last one, not that far behind, whereas Norris is way off the pace on this second lap of his. 1.5 seconds down. He's almost a second slower, although that's quite a bit back because that'll be taking into account Hamilton's first 2 sectors as well. So Norris is 7th place at the moment. He doesn't improve, but Ocon does have a chance to improve. He moves up to 6th place ahead of his teammate Lando Norris, and Danny Rick gets on to pole position. So here we go with the grid for the 2020 Doha Grand Prix. Daniel Ricciardo parking his Ferrari in pole position once again for the Ferrari team, followed by Carlos Sainz continuing his good start to the season in 2nd after being with the Toro Rosso team. And then on loan with Renault and Haas, finally gets back into the parent team over Red Bull and having an absolutely outstanding season so far. Not that far behind Daniel Ricciardo. On the second row of the grid, we've got Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes, followed by Max Verstappen, his first season with the Porsche team. Obviously, Porsche brought in for Force India, who unfortunately, storyline-wise in this game, went bankrupt. He is followed by his teammate Sebastian Vettel, his first season with the Porsche as well, not doing as well as his teammate Max Verstappen, who's made some big gains stat-wise over the course of the pre-season, so possibly rated as a little bit better driver than last year's Drivers' Champion Sebastian Vettel. And then we've got Stoffel Van Dorn, an absolutely amazing qualifying session from him in this Mercedes-powered ART Grand Prix car. 6th place for Stoffel in that ART car, so absolutely amazing qualifying lap from him. Then we've got Esteban Ocon 7th for us. Charles Leclerc underperforming a little bit here in the Ferrari in 8th. Fernando Alonso a long way behind his teammate Carlos Sainz in 9th place. And Lando Norris rounds out the top 10 for us in the Williams Honda. Then we've got Nico Hülkenberg outside the top 10 in the Mercedes. Just shows how close the top 5 teams are, and with an ART overperforming as well, just shows how competitive it is at the top of the order, that we've got Mercedes pushed all the way out to 11th place. Pierre Gasly in the Renault is 12th, Giovinazzi in the Sauber is 13th, George Russell, who scored points in his debut F1 race in Sydney, is 14th. Sergio Perez in that second ART car is 1.1 seconds behind the leader, 15th place. What did Stoffel get? Where was he? 0.4 seconds, so almost 7/10 down is Sergio Perez. Then we've got Valtteri Bottas in that second McLaren 16th, Pascal Wehrlein in the Renault 17th, Roman Grosjean in the Haas 18th, out qualifying his teammate Joseph Newgarden, who is in 20th in the Haas. Newgarden, who is rated at the moment as the best driver overall in the game, is 20th, and Alex Lynn in the Sauber is 19th. So hopefully we're going to have a good race here. As I was talking about in qualifying, the strategy is going to be a one-stop that we chase, and we can do that one sort of quite comfortably if we look after the tyres. We'll just concentrate on this at the moment. That's Ocon, who has got up. Van Dorn's dropped down to 7th. Ocon's got himself up into 5th place, but he's under pressure from Sebastian Vettel. Vettel manages to get past. Has Ocon got the pace here to challenge him? No, it doesn't look like that, and Van Dorn's just slowly dropping down here. He must have just put in an amazing qualifying lap. That ART is possibly not going to hang on as well as it did doing qualifying. It is lacking downforce, and we should be able to get Norris past the ART of Stoffel Van Dorn, although Charles Leclerc is going around the outside of Stoffel Van Dorn here. Is he going to be able to make it stick? This is going to be a section of corners where he's going to be on the outside. Norris is going to switch to the inside, but then get put to the outside, loses momentum out of that corner. Meanwhile, Leclerc is going to get momentum now on Ocon, but Ocon gets the inside line, forces Leclerc wide and manages to hold on to position. But anyway, it should be and there we see Leclerc go past as Ocon gets that corner messed up, and Van Dorn will get the momentum here as we go across the start-finish line. Ocon, meanwhile, gets that place back, and Norris is getting close as well. I don't think we're going to get time to talk about strategy in the early going here as Norris gets over the inside on that hairpin. Has he got the run on his teammate here? Forces him wide on the chicane. They're going to go, and it's going to give Van Dorn the opportunity to get back past here. Anyway, let's see if we can fit some talk about the strategy. No, Norris coming back, going on the outside quickly. The strategy should be a one-stop, but if we push the tyres too much, not if we push them too much, we can actually push here, because if you've seen it before, if you've played this game, Dawood does have a really short pit lane. Well, it's not really short, but it does cut out of a lot of the track, and it makes a pit stop about half the length in time of what it would ordinarily be. So chasing a two-stop is an option on this track. We're just going to have to see how this race unfolds here as Ocon, meanwhile, has managed to get himself past Sebastian Vettel. Meanwhile, Roman Grosjean's dropped down a few places. Fernando Alonso's dropped all the way down to 15th place here in the Red Bull, having a nightmarish start, whereas Wehrlein and Perez have made up places. Carlos Sainz finds himself in first place in that Red Bull, where he found himself for much of the race in the last race. So Daniel Ricciardo crashed until he was overtaken by Hamilton, who then went on a charge and managed to pull out way in front, whereas Danny Rick has fallen to 3rd. Max Verstappen is 4th in the Porsche. Leclerc is up into 5th, and Ocon is still currently ahead of Vettel in that Porsche, and it looks like Norris has got the run, has he? No, that's Van Dorn. Why did I think that was Norris? Van Dorn still having an excellent race in that Mercedes-powered ART car, ahead of Norris here once again. So we could chase a longer, well, not a longer, but a more aggressive strategy with Norris if we pushed our car all out. As you can see, we've done a good job with the chassis. We're not really using too much in high mode, so if we pushed the car all out and went for a split strategy with our two cars, and then maybe went really aggressive with the hard tyre next, since the weather is pretty hot as well, it's going to be we'll risk it with Norris. We'll just try and see if it works out for him, since he's a little bit further back. Ocon, meanwhile, he's going to be the one to hang on. His fitness is going to start to go as this race drags on, because he's got a -10 to his fitness that at the moment with the dodgy neck means he will be a little bit sluggish towards the end of this Grand Prix, but hopefully he's going to be able to hold on. Vettel, meanwhile, has managed to get back past Van Dorn, and Van Dorn should be under pressure now. We need to clear this ART pretty quickly if we want to make this strategy work of doing this two-stop. We should be able to get back out. We're not going to have much clear air to run in, though, if we manage to get this working. But we're not really picking up much pace at the moment in our Honda-powered Williams car, and tyre deg is really bad. We know it's really bad. You're just going to have to stick with it, Lando. This was done to try clear you past Van Dorn. It doesn't look to be working, pushing the car all out. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch back into backup mode. Although as we say that, it looks like we're getting right on the back of Van Dorn here. We do actually make that stick. So we're going to actually switch back to doing the one-stop strategy here. We're not really picking up any time. As you can see, the lap times from Norris was actually a hell of a lot slower there. He was stuck behind Van Dorn, admittedly, but I don't think an extra 10 seconds for a pit stop is going to be achievable and try to regain that time back. So we're just going to start cooling down a little bit with Norris. We're still going to chase a one-stop strategy. It's still going to be doable, considering what you can get out of a hard tyre around this track. We've still got another 4 to 6 laps on this left, and we can get pretty much 20 laps out of a hard tyre if we look after it a little bit. So if we can just keep going to about lap 8, the one stop is still on for Norris during this Grand Prix, whereas Carlos Sainz in that Red Bull is charging ahead. He's got almost a 3.5 second gap over Lewis, who's only just entering the pit straight there. Hamilton is a little bit further behind. Ricciardo is under pressure from his teammate Charles Leclerc, who's managed to get past the Porsche of Max Verstappen. Meanwhile, Ocon is starting to get onto the back of this pack, but he's also coming under pressure from Sebastian Vettel, and Norris is managing to stay ahead of Stoffel Van Dorn, who is having a really good race here, and will be putting the first point on the board for ART, their second Grand Prix in Formula 1. Obviously, they are a much storied team. Obviously, they've had pretty much most of the current drivers drive for them and win championships for them. Lewis, Sebastian, pretty much everyone's drove for them over the years and won championships. Obviously, Charles Leclerc was with Prema. What am I even saying? Did Charles Leclerc win the GP3 championship with them? It's totally gone out of my head, but anyway, I'll have to look that up afterwards and sort of refresh myself. Meanwhile, Norris has done a good job of holding on there to that tyre. He's almost brought it back in line with what Ocon is doing with the tyre. So everyone is going to be chasing the one stop, it looks like, and we're in a position where we're going to get back out in a decent position as well. We should be around about here when we pit. Obviously, if we can make that go a little bit longer as well, and we'll get back to pushing the fuel with Lando Norris. Meanwhile, Ocon is starting to get on to this pack of cars in front. This soft tyre, though, we can take the soft tyre down, that's medium, we can take it down to maybe 15%. So should we get pushing a little bit and try and clear this pack of cars before we get into the pits? Obviously, we know we do have a really good pit crew. We do have a chance of mistake. I'm sure I changed the pit crew, but we do have a chance of a mistake. But yeah, let's try and clear this little group of cars. If we can get Danny Rick there, who is in 6th, we're going to get Max Verstappen as well in that Porsche. Can we clear Charles Leclerc as well? Ocon, absolutely amazing move in the course of 2 corners. Manages to clear 2 Ferraris and a Porsche now. And we lead this pack of a Williams car, 2 Ferraris and 2 Porsches, all pretty close together here. So we're going to switch back down here. We're going to start cooling these tyres off because we want to take them as far as we can, just so we don't have to look after the hard tyres too much. And Norris, meanwhile, he's just holding on at the back of this group. He's a little bit quicker than the cars in front. But Ocon is now holding on. He's under pressure from Charles Leclerc here. We'll just try to cool these tyres down slightly. It looks like the other cars behind, the 2 Ferraris behind, are conserving their tyres as well. So we'll just switch to conserve, just so we're matching their strategy at the moment. We have cooled the tyres down, which is a good thing for us, although Charles is coming back now. Charles, though, has to slot in behind, tries to switch to the outside, then to the inside of Ocon. Can't get it going. We're going to hit these almost, well, they are right angle corners, a series of, what is it, 3 right angle corners, and Ocon gets away from Charles Leclerc there. He must have made a mistake into that corner, which has released Ricciardo there, but Leclerc does manage to get back past him, and 3 wide, the 2 Ferraris and the Porsche. Who is the Porsche? Is that Max Verstappen? It is, who then goes wide and comes under pressure from Sebastian Vettel. But that lets Ocon off a little bit there. So we're going to start thinking about making our first pit stop here. Should we get pushing with Norris? Should we get him in first, since he's got this little bit of clear air to run in? We'll get him pushing, and we'll maybe get another lap out of him before he comes onto the hard tyre. Meanwhile, with Ocon, he's going to stay out maybe just 1 lap longer, since he's got this advantage. If we do start to see the other cars start to line up their pit stop, though, we're going to respond to that and come into the pits. Otherwise, we're going to stay out. We don't want them trying to go for the undercut, although the a fresh hard tyre that they're probably churning through the tyre. Norris, you're going to be coming in this lap for the hard tyre. The risk is minimal, but Pappy McDermott, Right, so let's try get back into this. Just when you've got your mind focused on the strategy and what you're doing for a race, someone comes and rings the doorbell. Can't be helped. But anyway, let's try to get back into this. What were we talking about? McDermott, the mistake chance is there, so we're going to risk balanced. Hopefully McDermott isn't going to make a mistake here. Ocon is going to be coming in the lap after this one. We're just going to see what everyone else is doing. Is Sainz coming into the pits? Is he going to stay out another lap? They're staying out another lap, but we're going to try get the undercut going with Norris here. He's sort of got back towards the back of the pack of the cars in front of him. We've got a few cars, Leclerc, Verstappen coming into the pits as well. So we're going to get the little undercut working if we can on Danny Rick and Vettel, who have stayed out. Hopefully we can get onto the back of the pack here, but obviously we're going to come out into traffic. We're ahead of a Sauber. That is Alex Lynn. We've got and we've got a safety car. A safety car. Pierre Gasly has crashed as usual. Once we always go for the early pit stop, it always seems to happen, but it's going to work out for Ocon here a little bit at least, but not quite for Norris. We're just going to have to see where everyone comes out. The safety car is out. Should we pit? No, you've just come into the pit, Lando. Why would you want to pit again? You've got fresh tyres on, so let's just see what happens here once we go around. Everyone should be pitting here, but is it going to not work out for Norris? Because it's going to put Russell and Verline maybe in a good position. Sergio Perez, since this track cuts out so much, we are obviously going to be there with Ocon as well, but where is Norris going to get back out? Are we going to be behind a Renault and a McLaren? Norris is here 8th. It looks like we're going to stay ahead. They're in the pits for quite a while. Are we going to stay ahead of the Renault? Do we? Ahead of the McLaren? Have we got position? Have we got position? We didn't quite have position, but Norris forces his way past. So we haven't actually missed out here. Verline is staying out as well on that hard tyre, so he's not taking advantage of the safety car. So 3rd and 8th, it didn't work out too bad there. We've not really lost out. Leclerc, we managed to jump as well in the pits. I don't know whether he had a mistake or we just managed to jump him in the pits. Meanwhile, Verstappen in the Porsches just out in front as well. But it did work out for Ricciardo and Vettel. So anyway, we're just going to let the safety car go around and come back in, and we'll rejoin this race in just a few seconds. So the safety car's starting to pull away here, so we're going to go early and start getting our tyres heated up here and get the fuel into high mode, maybe overtake mode with Ocon, since he's got a little bit more fuel left maybe as well, with Lando and Norris as well. So what it's done is it's going to mean we're going to be can't even speak. We're going to easily be able to get this hard tyre to the end of the race. Hamilton is on a soft. He's going to make another pit stop here for some reason. Why he's gone onto the softs, I don't know. So Ocon is in a really good position as long as he can hang on to this position at the moment. Obviously, we've got Danny Rick behind. Obviously, the quickest man on track this year so far. Would have possibly won that first race if he hadn't have crashed. It's going to be a struggle to keep that Ferrari behind our Williams Honda car. And there, Danny Rick dives up the inside. We've now got two Porsches behind us, and Lando Norris also trying to nip at the heels of Max Verstappen, who's on a medium tyre. That medium might be at a point 14 laps, where that's going to start running low towards the end of the race as well. So Norris, it could be in a good position as well if he can hang on with Hamilton as well. We're going to be in a really good position as he goes up the inside of Verstappen. Norris goes past Verstappen here. Norris moves up into 6th place, so we're running 4th and 6th. An amazing result if we can sort of do this. Obviously, this is sort of where I would have expected us to be, sort of in and around last season, but obviously we had a really good start to this season last season because of the way the AI handles the reliability early on in the season. Obviously, if you've played this game before, you will know the AI is terrible at the start of the season. The reliability on all the cars is just absolute rubbish. They're constantly coming into the pits to repair stuff. I made sure at the beginning of the season that not overly reliable, but they were reliable enough that they wouldn't really need to fix the parts unless they just overly push the car too much. And as it is, we're not seeing any cars actually need to fix parts. We might see some maybe need to fix some in this race if any cars have rushed out upgrades. But yeah, that's the way we've worked it, just so we don't get any of those cheap wins early on in the season with cars having to come in to change parts. But Danny Rick there, he's still battling with Ocon. Ocon gets up here, he's into 4th place at the moment. We're just sort of recovering at the moment, but we're going to get back into high, maybe into medium for a little bit, just make sure we don't overheat these tyres. We're going to hold off a little bit until the end of the race. We've just gone past the halfway point at the moment. Norris, meanwhile, is under pressure from Charles Leclerc. Leclerc gets past him. Leclerc's going to get the boost out of that corner. We're going to switch to attack and overtake, maybe try and retake this position. And there we go, we boost off that corner. Norris gets the line, but Leclerc gets the better line coming out of the mini chicane into that left-hander. And Norris gets the run out there, so we'll just switch down here and see if we can keep Leclerc behind us. Meanwhile, Ocon has a Ferrari running away in front of him, and the Porsche of Sebastian Vettel just behind him, whereas Verstappen has fallen all the way down to 10th place. A nightmare restart after the safety car. Leclerc 7th, Russell up into the points again in that McLaren. Verline getting points for Renault early on in this season as well. And is that Norris going round the outside, or is that him still battling with Leclerc? It is. Leclerc gets a bad run out of that corner though. He's going to be coming under pressure from George Russell, as that was Carlos Sainz setting the quickest lap of the Grand Prix, and he's currently lapping quicker than Lewis Hamilton on that soft tyre. As Lewis Hamilton looks like he's going to have to make another pit stop before the end of the race. So Carlos Sainz is on for a win here, as Ocon is really coming under pressure now from Sebastian Vettel. We're not really going to push our tyre too much, but meanwhile, whilst Vettel is battling away with Ocon here, maybe we can catch Vettel napping. As Vettel's concentrating on Ocon, can we get Lando past Sebastian Vettel? Here we go. We hit all these 90-degree corners, and Vettel gets a better run out there, so we're going to get Norris going. Can we get it there? We're pushing all out Ocon. We've got him turned down a little bit, not really battling with Vettel, who's pushing his tyres all out, and that is why we held Vettel up a little bit with Ocon there, and we'll just switch straight back down with Lando Norris now. Even these extra laps of pushing that Norris has done, the tyre wear's not really dropped off there. 25% Ocon's done over 6 laps, although some of that was done under the safety car. We do have some fuel to recover at some point with Lando Norris, but it should be easily done. Meanwhile, we are now ahead of Sebastian Vettel. We have both our cars running 4th and 5th. We can't really catch the lead cars from Red Bull. Well, it's not really the lead car, because you would say Alonso's the lead car in the Red Bull, but Carlos Sainz is having an amazing start to this season, finds himself 3 seconds ahead of the Mercedes, who possibly needs to pit again unless Hamilton's really going to look after that tyre, but I don't see it going to the end of the race. And Danny Rick is currently in 3rd place, battling on track with Lewis Hamilton at the moment, and it looks like Mercedes have made a really bad strategy call there. The second Mercedes, Hulkenberg, all the way back in 17th, battling with a McLaren of Bottas and a Sauber of Alex Lynn in front of him. But Norris, meanwhile, are we holding off Vettel? Vettel is half a second down the road. We've got the Ferrari of Leclerc, who does have to pit as well again, and then it's the McLaren, a Renault and a Porsche behind them. Ocon sets the quickest 3rd sector that he's so far done in the race, we might just, well, it's pretty comfortable, we don't have to do much, we might as well recover fuel so we've got some fuel to actually push with if a couple of cars get close to us as this race moves on. Meanwhile, Norris, as it is just ahead of this pack of Vettel, Leclerc, Russell, Verline. If we can just keep him going as it is, these tyres, we'll just have to watch the temperatures on Ocon's tyre as well. It looks like his temperature's dropped off a little bit now, they're just running cold. And we've got Vettel trying to come back here, so we're going to go attack and overtake with Norris. Obviously, we can't run overtake mode too long, and it's going to be Vettel that gets it anyway. And it looks like Charles Leclerc is going to get that as well, but we're not really battling with Leclerc because we know he does have to pit again. They're going risky with a two-stop, but Norris manages, and Norris has run wide. Pushing all out, Norris has run wide. Manages to stay in front of the ART of Perez, the two ARTs. Still up there, 12th and 13th, a good performance from them. But Norris messes up, runs wide, finds himself now outside the points, although should just about get back into the points once Leclerc does make his pit stop. Russell and Verstappen on this medium, they shouldn't be getting to the end of the race either, so there's still points on the board here. But Norris under pressure from the ARTs at the moment, and we've got fuel to recover here as well. But Ocon now, he is far enough ahead of Sebastian Vettel, although his fitness will start to go here because he does have the dodgy neck at the moment. There's no real point chasing down these cars in front, I don't think. What are we doing? Well, we're actually second quicker than Danny Rick at the moment, although maybe he was just doing a slow lap the lap before, so maybe we should just see what we can get out of a lap with Ocon and see if it's worth chasing down Danny Rick. We've got a little bit better tyre wear than him. Obviously, Ocon is on for a podium place here, but a 10-second pit stop, Hamilton should just be behind, splitting Ocon and Vettel once he comes into the pits, if he has a decent pit stop. Meanwhile, Norris is back into 10th place here. He's managed to get past Roman Grosjean in that Haas, I think, or has someone else pitted? No, I don't think they have done. So Norris is back up into the points. His gold and black Haas car is running 11th, which is not too bad from then, seeing as the Cosworth-powered Haas team is the worst car on the grid. Obviously, they do have a pretty decent driver lineup, although Joseph Newgarden are not really getting to grips with Formula 1 so far at the moment. He's looking for a move to a much bigger team. As I've said before, he's the best rated driver overall in this game at the moment across all of the drivers from all of the series. But Norris, meanwhile, 10th at the moment. Are we quicker? Well, we've got a Red Bull in front of us, which is not going to be catchable. Verstappen in the Porsche, we might not be able to catch him. But obviously Russell is possibly catchable in that McLaren if he starts falling back. Ocon has gone quicker. What did we do? A 149.6. No, Danny Rick has responded. He's going quicker. So what we're going to do is we're just going to switch. Now, we're not really going to be able to catch the top three. We just need to keep pace with Hamilton, who does need to pit again. Meanwhile, have we got tyre wear left with Norris? We've done 11 laps on this hard tyre, 7 to go. This hard tyre can go all the way down to 0, so we might as well get pushing with Norris. We don't have that much to lose. We have a couple of points to lose, but we do need to recover the fuel at some point, so we might as well push all out on the tyres here, see if we can get him a little closer to Fernando Alonso, who is 3 seconds ahead. Meanwhile, we'll switch to Ocon here. Vettel is a long way down the road from us. Ricciardo's a long way up, so what we're doing at the moment is just holding on with Ocon. Just see what the cars around us do. If Vettel starts speeding up, obviously, then we'll speed our car up. He's just holding on at the moment. Norris, though, moves up into 9th place as Charles Leclerc has pitted for his second set of tyres. A long way out of the points now, although 4 seconds is not much for him to recover. This two-stop does work out. Like I was on about earlier, it can work out for you because the pit stops in the pit lane is so short, as it cuts out a lot of the this really slow part of the track. But we're sort of catching up. We've managed to gain 3 tenths on Alonso. There's 4, almost 5 seconds to George Russell, who is, and well, they're going to pit, aren't they? Russell, Verstappen are going to pit. Ocon, though, goes up into 3rd. Hamilton is in the pits, although, as we see, short pit lane. He's not that far behind, only 2 seconds. And he is on a fresh, soft tyre, so he is going to get us at some point, I would feel. I don't think we're going to be able to hold him off. Although, to do so, we do need to push a little bit more. Whereas Norris is now up into 7th place. But he would have been in front of Alonso. Would we have been able to hold off Vettel? It's not as good as a result as it looked to be on the cards, but We're not really closing that gap down to Alonso either, so what we need to do is just hold off just in case Verstappen becomes a late threat here. We need to conserve some of this tyre so we can push later on in the Grand Prix. We're just going to conserve mode. We do need to recover that fuel though from this point forward, whereas Ocon, Hamilton is behind him, lapping quicker is he at the moment. We won't get to know until we've actually done a few laps. We come across the line doing a 150 and a 150.7, so Hamilton was actually slower there, but he is starting to push this tyre now. He's 2 seconds behind, 1.8. Hamilton should be able to close this gap. We won't go back into medium with Lando Norris now. Still 6 seconds back to Verstappen. Looks like we should be able to hold on for 7th place with Lando Norris, whereas Ocon in 3rd place. Hamilton is gaining quickly, but can we hold him off? Should we get pushing in attack mode from this point whilst he's a second out? Obviously Ocon is not at his best. He does have this dodgy neck at the moment, and Hamilton is still closing in as we go pushing all out. Obviously with his fitness down, we do possibly run the risk of him running wide like Lando Norris did, and Carlos Sainz sets the fastest lap of the race this late in the Grand Prix, on for a win in his first season at Red Bull, back at Red Bull. Ricciardo 7 seconds behind. We're now pulling away from Lewis Hamilton, so we're going to just respond by turning down our driving style. Although Lewis Hamilton set a really quick lap on that last lap, although for some reason we managed to pull that gap back out, and Norris is currently 7th. It doesn't, yeah, we've got no chance of chasing down Alonso. It looks like Verstappen has actually been passed by George Russell, and so that puts Verstappen out there, so we can just keep recovering with this car as it is at the moment. We've got no real threats to Lando Norris. Perez is quicker at the moment, but on a he's slowing down as well. He's gone into conserve mode, so he shouldn't be as quick again. It's just whether we can keep Ocon in this 3rd place, whether we can hold off Lewis Hamilton on this quicker soft tyre in that Mercedes. Mercedes having a little bit of a nightmare this race. Hülkenberg out of the points. Hamilton only in 4th, fighting for a podium finish here. So we're now 1.5 seconds ahead. Hamilton slowing down there. We were actually a lot quicker on that last lap, and we've still got room to keep pushing with the fuel. Hamilton's trying to cool his tyres down for maybe one last push towards the end of the race. Obviously we can respond to that last push. He does have to make up 1.5 seconds. He's going to start coming now, 1.3 seconds. Is he going to be able to try and close that down? When should we respond with pushing our tyres? It's going to be a close one to the starting to struggle with tyre wear. They can go down to 0% though. Norris is going to be able to recover this fuel. It's just when do we decide to push here. Hamilton's getting a little bit close now, so we're going to go back into attack mode. Is Hamilton still pushing? No, he's gone back into just high mode, and we've got problems with the car. It's the front wing though. It should last for these last couple of laps now, and Hamilton currently 1.1. He's starting to drop behind again, and Carlos Sainz has pitted. What is he? He was on a hard tyre that should go to the end of the race. Red Bull throwing away everything here. Where's he going to get back out? Is he going to get back out into 2nd place? So doesn't really have the room to get back to Danny Rick there. So Red Bull trying something really risky. We're just going to hold off here, respond to Hamilton. If he comes back, he's cooling down once again, so that's alright if we can just keep there. Norris is sort of a world of his own, 5 seconds either side to both cars, and we've got 1.5 laps to go. Can we hold off Lewis Hamilton here for our first podium of the season? Would be amazing if we can, but Lewis is coming back once again. He's in low mode, so should we respond, we can possibly go attack mode to the end of the race here with this, and we've got maybe a little run in overtake mode as well if Hamilton does get a little bit too close for comfort. Meanwhile, Carlos Sainz, can he close that gap to Danny Rick and take the win back? 2 seconds is a massive gap for the last lap of the race. Meanwhile, Ocon 0.6, 0.7, and we've starting to pull away again. Is Hamilton cooling down his tyres for one last push on this last lap? We can get pushing with, no, we might as well not risk anything with Norris. It's a long way between either car, either side of him. We're starting to pull away from Lewis again. Lewis still cooling down his tyres. Here he goes. Is he going to keep pushing for the last half a lap? We can run overtake mode briefly here. Just have to keep an eye on it. Sainz is within 1.7 seconds. Red Bull pretty much handing He only got 16 laps out of that hard tyre. Red Bull aggressively pushing those tyres, or Sainz really aggressively pushing those tyres. Alonso, meanwhile, has got himself back up in 6th place. Vettel in the Porsche. A decent finish, seeing as the Porsche's not as strong as it can be. They've still got room to grow, a lot of room to grow, in fact, with their engine. And should become a force maybe next season or the season after. But here we go. Ocon is going to come across the line. 3rd place is going to run out just out of fuel, pretty much on the line there, but he gets across the line. Norris, meanwhile, he's going to get this 7th place finish. Sainz couldn't catch up in the end. Danny Rick gets 1st place in the Ferrari, his first win for Ferrari after crashing in the first race. Hamilton in the Mercedes 4th, Porsche of Vettel 5th, Red Bull of Alonso 6th, and we've got Norris in the Williams 7th. Perez up there in the ART scoring points. Absolutely great race for ART. The McLaren of Russell once again scoring points, and then Verstappen getting a single point there in 10th place. So as we move on, there shouldn't be anyone running risky parts at this point in the season, but you never know. And there we go, everything's still confirmed there. So Esteban Ocon gets his first podium of the season. Carlos Sainz, Red Bull throwing away a win. He was 7 seconds ahead. They possibly were pushing aggressively to try and open up a 10-11 second gap so they could get in and out of the pits and do 2 pit stops and get back out into the lead and have a really fresh tyre to pull away from Danny Rick. Didn't work out for them in the end. But as it is, Esteban Ocon is currently 4th in the Drivers' Championship. Lando Norris is currently 9th. Lewis is 1 point ahead of Carlos Sainz. Danny Rick, with that win, puts himself all the way up into 3rd after scoring 0 points in the first race. Fernando's there or thereabouts in 5th as well. And we move on to the Constructors. We're currently 3rd. And looking like once we bring updates, especially to the engine at race 6, we could still be fighting for this title at the end of the season. Although Red Bull, Mercedes not really looking that strong. Hulkenberg out of the points in this race, but Red Bull look like they could be early favourites here. Obviously Ferrari should be in a good position, although Charles Leclerc once again finished outside the points. Ferrari going for a 2-stop, going for soft, and then once again doing another pit stop. Pretty much it didn't really work out for them doing that second pit stop so early, so soon after the safety car, because it just totally wrecked them. They got stuck in traffic. I guess that's what happened to Leclerc. And then Porsche are in 4th, 1 point behind us, so it's still pretty close here. We've got the top 5 teams and the bottom 5 teams really struggling for points here, but ART scored their first points of the season, so it looks like it's going to be between Haas and Alfa Romeo Sauber as who gets relegated in favour of one of the new F2 teams who could be getting promoted if they do accept it, if they accept promotion at the end of the season. So we were expected to come 3rd overall. We did come 3rd overall. Still losing £1 million per race, which is obviously due to how the sponsors work in this game at the moment. But there we go, Ferrari winning the race, Sainz 2nd in the Red Bull, Esteban Ocon 3rd. A decent run of results there. No F2 race this weekend, it doesn't look like. Obviously they run a reduced calendar. Their next race is 4th of April, which should be between this race and our next one. So we'll check back in to see how F2 is doing in the next episode. Just really scouting all the drivers at the moment. No need to really look after them as they're not really anyone I'm interested in. Just try to scout every driver in the game so it helps me move drivers between Formula 1 and Formula 2 and so on at the end of the season. You finished well down the pecking order in practice, only managing to finish in 14th. Did you struggle to find the right setup? No, we didn't. It's just because we were running the race strategy and running a lot of fuel. So yeah, we'll just say that one doesn't affect anything. So yeah, I need to remember to change the pit crew. I'll do that between episodes, and we've got a new rear wing built. So what we're going to do is try and build a... There's not much we can do on the front wing, so if I can get a second suspension build done, this is going to add 2 days on, but add 35 to it, and that's a little bit of an improvement. 6 days before this race, so then we should be able to get that reliable enough to go into the car for Tondela. So we should have, between the cars, 5 new parts going into the car ready for the Portuguese Grand Prix. But obviously next time we've got Tondela, not Tondela, we've got Beijing next, where the engine is all important, and the gearbox, which unfortunately for us are not our best parts. So hopefully we can get something out of this. Obviously the rear wing is one of the best. So hopefully that negates the effect of the engine and the gearbox. But anyway, that is it for another episode. Another good race. We're showing that we can be still competitive with this Honda engine, this new Williams Honda F1 racing team that we are branded as this season. The engine is not that far behind. Once we get to Canada and we can introduce our first engine upgrades, we should see ourselves maybe jump above some of these other teams, as I think it's only maybe, it might be only about 40 points behind. So if we can get something going, we're not actually going to be that far behind the other teams. And before the end of the season, if we can keep focusing on the engine this season, since everything else is so strong other than the gearbox, we should be able to catch up. And maybe by the end of the season, we're still going to be fighting for the championship. But that is it for this episode. Another good episode. Like, comment, subscribe, all the usual stuff. But until next time, I'll see you down the road in Beijing for the Chinese Grand Prix. And goodbye.